still some time in. So we have Subrat and Avik from Gojek. I think Gojek doesn't need an introduction, so I'll keep it very short. Over to you, Subrat and Avik.
Is it audible?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can anyone take a guess what does Gojek do?
Everything.
That's the right answer. So yeah. So little bit about me and Avik. So I had the SDET in automation engineering platform in Gojek, and I've been working there for close to 2 years now. With me, Avik, he is one of the architect at Gojek, the test architect. Yeah, let's move on to next. Like I mentioned, right, Gojek is Southeast Asia's leading on-demand platform. It serves various kinds of things, right? For example, somebody asked me, right, what does Gojek do? I tell, have you seen Swiggy? Have you seen Ola? Have you seen Urban Clap? It's a mix of everything, right? That's why we call it as a super app. We have close to 20 innovative products. We are there in 3 countries, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, right? And it starts with everything, transport. Transport is the cab business, cab aggregating, logistics, right? You would relate it to some kind of Dunzo kind of thing, right? And then food, shopping, payments, daily needs, right? So 3 countries, lot of scale. We have 3 mobile apps, customer app, through using which a customer can do a booking, order food or any kind of service. We have driver app, we call them partner app. We have merchant apps using which they can actually accept or reject any kind of food or grocery kind of thing. Let's talk about automation engineering platform at Gojek. We are part of that. What does it do? 2 years back, we didn't had a platform team or a central team to collate all kind of requirements, what kind of needs we have as a QA organization. And that's where we thought of building a platform team which will cater to different product development groups. When I say product development groups, in a company where we have like thousands of microservices, I don't exactly remember. Avik, if you have that number, let me know. So it is very important. There are different product groups. They work according to their business criteria. They are different designers, business people, product managers who give requirement, and it can be on any portion of the app. Suppose there is a team which is working on only the home screen of the app. There are teams which are working on the payment integration. Now there's different teams. They have different way of working, but the QA needs to be top notch, right? That's where we wanted to get the consistency of QA. Now different teams working with a different way, we wanted to unify the process. That's where we thought of building an automation engineering platform, which can actually work on creating frameworks, providing solutions, and also help the mobile release engineering team. So the entire function actually takes care of releasing the apps into production, monitor it, and also raise incidents using any tool like Blameless and update the stakeholders. Can we move on to the next slide? Okay, what are the problem statement? Like I mentioned, there are multiple product development groups. We had different frameworks in each team, right? They had a different way of doing things. Now that brings to lot of redundancy. There was like lot of repetitive things happening in different teams across the org, and there was no standard way of doing things. Now this siloed approach actually increases the effort, and also in a way it is not predictable. Like at the end of the day, my goal is to make our releases predictable. That's the goal, right? Release predictable and quality. So that's where we thought like it is actually leading to the low automation coverage. So each team have their own way of working. There was no standard definitions, standard guidelines, how to make things work and what are the important areas. There was no standardized process. I mentioned about the scale, right? We have close to 1 million merchants at Gojek, which actually work. Now there is no standardized way of generating test data. That's where the problem lies. Be it a manual automation, a manual engineer or an automation engineer, it's a day-to-day. not only QA, but also it involves dev. Dev on a day-to-day basis, whenever they are doing development or any coding, they would really like to understand, okay, I want to test out this flow before I commit this change into the master or develop branch, anything, right? The developer follows a test-driven development approach where they need to write test cases and then only it commits. So when it comes to QA, actually there is a lot of testing already done, and when QA, it's not like you will find a P0 issue out of the box. So that's where generating large scale test data was a big problem, because the service is only available in Indonesia, Singapore, and Vietnam, right? How do somebody, a engineer residing in Bangalore, can test it, right? That's where all this generation of test data comes in handy in their day-to-day work. High execution time for regression test. That's the biggest bottleneck, right? Everything was manual. Every operation has to be executed multiple times. There are multiple features. Like I mentioned, there are multiple teams who are committing to the same code base. And now it can happen that the team A is committing a change and team B. So there are potential regressions. There are multiple cycles of retesting those things every now and then, in order to make sure what we release into the production is of high quality. And that's where the the regression test time is very high. And it leads to longer release cycle. When we say 3 apps, right, 3 apps has to cater to their business. For example, we are doing a new service launch. For example, service launch, we have a GoCar, then we want to launch a GoCar XL, or we want to launch in a different country. It will bring all these things into, and it will have a subsequent cascading effect, which will actually increase the release cycle, and it will be close to a month. It was not predictable, first of all. The business would actually commit for the features, and okay, this feature is there, going to be live on such and such date, but we were not able to meet the timelines because we were not being able to predict what kind of issues will come while the development and testing is going on. Let's look into the solutions. I mentioned about unified frameworks, right? That's where we thought about unifying these frameworks into a single thing. That's where all the engineers, they commit into the single code base, and anyone from any different team can actually leverage it. There is no reinventing of wheel, first of all, because team A might be doing something and team B has already solved it, right? That doesn't make sense anything. It is like, it's counterproductive. That's where we thought of unifying all the frameworks for mobile, backend, performance testing, and tooling. So all of this AEP, if I have to divide it into a vertical, it caters into front end, back end, performance, and tooling, and also L&D, learning and development. With all the tooling and everything, it is also important for us to grow as an engineer. That's where we have L&D, where we conduct in-house bootcamp sessions, right, which helps all our engineers to see knowledge sharing and understand what are the problems being solved by a different team, and that's how we unified it. Moving on to next, it is very important for us to visualize and track all kinds of QA metrics, right? Be it coverage, be it stability of your test case, how many features are going into production, where does your release stand. I remember the days, and Avik can resonate, like we were managing release timelines. I belong to the release team. Excel sheets, right? That is like Excel sheet to an engineer, it's like, okay, color codes or some kind of thing, right? And it becomes very, very tedious because you have to maintain so many columns in that spreadsheet, and to give an idea like where is that. Suppose a product manager comes to me and tell, hey, when will this release be there available in production? What is the current rollout state? We don't have an answer, right? Because everything was runtime and everything maintained in the spreadsheet. That's where we built this portal to collate everything right from when the release dates are. We work in a fixed train for all the apps, and the teams have to adhere to those timelines. Of course, there is flexibility to switch and change those timelines based on business requirement, but we try to make the train very consistent and disciplined enough so that dev and QA finish their testing on feature branches and merge it to RC. And that's where all these things are collated into the dashboard, where you can see a product manager just opens the dashboard and see, okay, this is my release calendar. We name it as release calendar. And you can see, okay, this is the release which will go out in month of July, towards the end of the July. Let me target this feature into this version. That becomes very important. Like I said, AEP is not only to solve the QA side of problem, it is also to solve any kind of automation challenges happening at Gojek, be it developer productivity, be it QA productivity, or a day-to-day work. Test data generation was a problem. That's where we created APIs and Slack bots. We have so many Slack bots in Gojek, which actually now we are in a process of collating into one Slack bot, which actually generates all kind of things. For example, I have to generate a bid or a booking from a point A to point B. I have to move the driver from, so let's say the driver arrived at the customer location. Now driver has to take and drop the customer, right? All these simulations are done through the bots. So as a manual testing engineer, or any engineer for that matter who wants to certify or test the code, will use these bots to generate the data. And of course, the APIs are created first of all to actually help in automation. While our automation, we have written the script, we have integrated those API to generate the test data on the fly. Okay, last but not the least, in-house device lab. Some would ask me why we need to have an in-house device lab when we have so many cloud partners, right? First of all, but yeah, we use cloud partners for our functional testing, but when it comes to non-functional metrics, for example, app launch time or memory usage, CPU usage, we rely our in-house device lab. So back in the day of COVID, when everybody was working from home, it was very tough for me. Let's say I am using, I have to certify certain thing, and it is only, I have to test it on Android 5. Android 5 is a very low-end operating system. Most of the apps have gone away. But we still cater to Android 5 and 6 because we have a user base which is there, and we can't tell our users that, hey, please upgrade your device, and because we are not going to support. That's where, and this device is not available in the market. Now that's where we thought of building it, where using WebSockets, we push all the data streams where it can be remotely controllable. Somebody, let's say Avik is in Jakarta and I have to take his device for my testing, he can plug it and connect it through his lab or the laptop. I can access it through my browser. So that's the power of this. And the ever reliant non-functional testing metrics, right? The app launch times. We tried it on multiple cloud partners simulators, but every time I launch the app with the same configuration, it would give a different time value, right? Sometimes it would give 5 seconds, 6, 7 seconds. So it was never reliant because we have to stop these issues before it goes into production. And that's where we did a POC and we were successful. It was giving us 97% reliable data. So every time I launched the app, it would give me the similar data. And we would update the baseline and the threshold values based on which a developer commit can fail. Let's say a developer commits a change and there is an increase. So we have defined 5 seconds as the threshold value. It can't go beyond that. Let's say if it becomes 6, we are failing the commit. Yeah, moving on to next. I would like Avik to explain about the impact of all these activities.
Hey, hi everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. So all these efforts done, what was the impact? So first of all, with the unification of the frameworks, we were able to significantly increase our automation coverage. Currently, we have around 12K mobile tests automated, and these are run on nightly basis. So we have a cloud partner, and we are running around close to 100 threads for the mobile automation. Then for what Subrat mentioned about service category launches, right? So in COVID, a lot of the companies and even Gojek, we were experimenting with different service types, right? So you would want to get a vaccinated driver and a vehicle which has a psycho safety installation, right? So Earlier, the way it was very difficult to get these changes in production. It was very difficult to get these changes in production because most of the things were hard coded in the app. But the whole org took a decision to make it all configurable so that we could launch in probably less than a week. So all the backend automation that we did, it helped us reduce the time for QA, and we are able to make 2x quicker service type launches. Like a basic new service type we could launch in around 3 to 4 days without requiring any app changes, everything from the backend. The last point which Subrat mentioned about performance check. So this was a very interesting thing since, as Subrat said, right, when we ran the POC on the cloud providers, right, we were getting very the standard deviation of the results were very high, so we could not rely on that, and the devs were also opposed to it. So we thought that we'd build the lab. We started getting feedback, and now it's already in the pre-commit, the commit pipeline, right? So if you cross the threshold, your PR gets blocked and it doesn't get merged. With that, we also report all the CPU, memory, and all those uses, so that it's very easy for the dev to go, okay, what were the metrics at that time when the test execution was there, and they can see what are the potential regressions for those service. And again, since it's a PR level check, so we prevented a lot of issues from going into production. And again, coming to the release cycle, right? So we saved around 900 hours, and so when I joined like around 3.5 years back, what it was, and now we are able to launch it within, so Play Store to Play Store time is around 7 days, and that's a great improvement. Along with that, the release calendar application which Subrat mentioned, right? So I think again, it's not only for the QA, everything was maintained in Excel sheets, so all the apps, they had different Excel sheets, and few people would go and edit the dates. There was no accountability of, okay, this release was edited, you don't know who moved the timeline. And so typically when you want to do a 6 month retro or a yearly retro, right, the Excel doesn't have any versioning, right? If somebody, let's say execs, right, want to get a review of how many releases did we make on time and all, so no data, you can't have that accountability in an Excel sheet, right? So that's why we build the release manager also, and now every time we make a release, we make hot fixes, everything is there in the portal, there is full accountability. So we use that, we have started using that data to make improvements in the process. And again, the timelines getting moved randomly, right? Somebody makes, okay, I want this change to be there, no, you move the timeline. So there is complete accountability of that. Okay, so you had requested for these changes, that's why we kind of move the timelines. With that, we'd like to go to Q&A. You want the mic? Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, so you told the performance checks, right? So latency increase. So it depends on the production environment. We database latencies are all. So do you
Mobile side client app performance. So Gojek is a mobile app. So one of the main things which we wanted to check is on the launch time, right? So our UX researchers and the people who talk to the driver partners and the mobile, right? So they told that if suddenly the launch time increases, there were a few issues like that. So they tend to give very bad ratings on the Play Store, right? So the launch time thing was very P0 for us. We did not want to regress on that. So that's why we built that solution.
And this is on integration. Prior to building this, we were relying on Firebase to get the data. But that is again, that the thing has already happened, right? That event has already gone into production. Either if the launch time has increased, you would raise a hotfix. That is again bad. And once it is there on the store, we have a dedicated team of researchers who actually goes through the Play Store rating. So as a quality group, it becomes very important to see each rating and collect that information and see. So we have seen feedbacks about people reporting battery consumption, or this particular screen is very slow, or it tends to get hang. That's where we thought that why not stop it before going to production. Sorry?
latencies as well?
Yeah, so backend latency is a separate tool. We have built it using Gatlin, the performance in-house tool, and that we use for doing backend testing. This is only for the mobile app problem.
What's the turnaround time for those 12,000 tests you created? Meaning what
Execution time?
yeah.
Yeah, close to.
And then, time between the developer codes the feature and gets the feedback.
Yeah.
Something is wrong.
Okay, so there are two ways how we schedule this. One is the nightly execution, which happens over every day. So, which happens on the master branch because that's where all the features are getting merged and you identify any regression. It depends, like I mentioned about different PDGs, different teams, right? They have their feature branch where they do the testing. They have a mechanism where for a certain area of code changes, only those tests has to be executed. It varies. It could be 5 minutes to 1 hour also.
So how much time it take to run those 12,000? Is 5 minutes?
Close to 10 hours.
Sorry.
Yeah, close to 10 hours. So it involves entire Gojek, right?
What will happen if the 100 or 150 tests are failing out of the 12,000?
Okay, so we have dedicated roster based people who are dedicated to see the stability on a weekly basis, and that's where when the stability goes down, and that's where they see all the failures. It also generates a defect on the Jira because it has the integration, and that's where the QA will go and see, okay, whether this defect is a valid or was it a flaky test case or a false positive.
You also mentioned about unified solution framework, right? So is that framework is only a framework or it also includes your app automation, performance testing?
Everything. So it's also a framework with all the guidelines. We have separate framework for performance testing, backend and front end. Front end is all APM based, backend is rest assured, and the performance is Gatlin, and everything we rely on Java.
So it's a separate repo?
It's a separate repo.
Automation?
It's a separate repo, but like I mentioned, right, everyone commits to the same. So like the front end wants to utilize a backend utility, they can simply call that API through the framework. Yeah.
And GitLab CI/CD integration is there. So when the developer
Yeah.
when the developer commits, right? So it's a multi-pipeline thing. So the tests automatically get triggered on the so suppose the backend automation testing repo is there, right? So we have all the governance and the YAML files written there, right? So all the pipelines can trigger a pipeline in this say mobile automation repo or the backend automation repo. It's connected like that.
Yeah.
This question, if performance data and client side variances, how did you solve it? It's very
Yeah, that's right. We tried first with our cloud partner, right? Because they have tons of devices, right? Where different OS versions and all. But every time we launched it, so for cloud partners, they are not private to us, right? That cloud partner might be used by different XYZ company. It is only for that session it belongs to us. So it was very hard to keep the same kind of configuration every time. And it becomes very important for us to be very consistent in reporting this issue. Otherwise, that it's counterproductive for developer who is going to look into those issues if it is a false positive. That's where we tried with cloud partners. Every time we launch, we got a different value. Then we came back to simulators. But simulators again on Android and all everything, it will try to take the RAM and all everything of your laptop basically. So that is again, it's not advisable, and that also gave us different values. That's where we thought like where we use physical devices and with a set of configuration through our automation script, we disable everything and we keep the device as it is, only dedicated for doing launch and performance testing with the same kind of configuration. That's where we got consistent reliable values. I mentioned about like 97% of reliability was there.
your variance had reduced.
That variance reduced.
The device environment.
Yes, the physical
Yeah,
device.
Because a lot of it, like if if on typically cloud providers, they are running automation all the time, right? So the device gets heated, you will know, right? So if the device gets heated, absolutely the performance degrades. We could see that, and even sometimes, so we have kept all the devices in a air conditioned.
So what you are saying is a cloud provider can't tell me if the device is heated or not. But a physical
Yes.
one can.
Yeah.
A physical one can, and also there are certain scenarios where we are reliant on doing QR code scanner kind of thing, where a person has to take a selfie. I don't think the cloud provider will do. They are building it, that's for sure.
So during the problem statement, you mentioned that services from Gojek are available in Singapore, Vietnam, and Indonesia. How does a Bangalore-based engineer, like preferably like test it? So is it like a data-related problem that you come across, like the context of the services are different? So and if so, like how did you eventually do that?
Yeah, so different countries have different kind of services available. For example, Indonesia is a price sensitive country where we have low range categories available. But Singapore is very expensive, right? Where you have premium luxe kind of categories, right? We mentioned about service category launches, we quicken up, right? That's what is service type, right? Different kind of service, luxe and all. So this is all configurability related problems where it was a objective as a Gojek, not only from QA or dev and QA, where we have to solve the configurability problem where we can launch any service type or in any countries within a week. That's where we automated the backend system, because the backend has to validate the configurability. Once that is solved, the front end part is, of course, this is the regression which is actually running on all different service types.
So you mentioned about Slackbox, right? And for automatically creating a test data.
Yeah.
So how it learn means how it is smart to train.
You want to take?
Smart. So we have commands. So you give Slackbot a command, create booking. This is my phone number. This is the location lat long I want. So it will do everything for you. And if you have the app open, right, you will see. So say suppose you are testing the driver. You are from the driver team, right? And to create a booking, you would have to have another phone, or in the same phone you will create another, install the app and all, right? So so suppose for even for QA folks who are doing it manually, or the devs, right, it's very difficult. So you build the bot, you give say create booking, again the phone number, the lat long, it will create a booking for you. So similarly for driver apps, right, you want to accept, you want to move the customer, you want to move the driver, all the commands are there. When you launch the app, right, you get a kind of a Slack interface. You can click and do all of these things. Or you want to suppose payments, right, you want to set your bank like GoPay wallet value to this X, Y, you want to tell. So all these things is available in the bot. And the main thing is not only QS, like the devs and even the PMs, right, who want to test. So opening it via Slack gives us like our user base, anybody in the company can use it, right? They don't need to know what is an API, what is a mobile phone. They, as a customer, right, they can just try it out, and it's very intuitive since you have given a UI driven interface.
There could be multiple use cases for like for one service, right, and there could be like booking, right, from one place to another place, and there could be multiple use cases. How is it becoming smart test Blackboard so that to create those use cases and test?
No, it's on the user only. The Slack is Slackbot is to give a user to the interface, but on the backend, right, you have the APIs which will trigger multiple dev APIs, right, to create an order. There it's like passing a parameter, right, whatever. So when the automation runs, right, say I want to create a booking in Indonesia with these params, and I want these type of bookings created. So it's all an API, right. So depending on whatever test you want, you will create that and pass it.
Just to add to that, for example, somebody who is not that tech savvy or something, he wants to actually see what will happen if I generate this data and how I will generate this data. Earlier we used to share the postman and the API collection, right? Please go ahead and hit this, you will be able to sign up. But that is again, it is back and forth, right? People who have shared that, they will only get the question. That's why we built this bot, which is an interface where you can do, okay, I want this category, this booking in this location, right? And then automatically that particular, so we have simulated the driver movement. It is very important that driver takes the same path which is shown on the Google map to reach there. That's where we do the calculation of ETA and all everything. And yeah, just to add, and it is the responsibility of individual product development groups to continue adding features to that and keep it available. Within Gojek, we believe in open source community within Gojek, where you contribute.
We'll have more questions later. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Avik and Subrat.
Folks, I hope you have already voted. The slide has been up for a good 30 seconds now. Anybody left?